So today I just want to talk about the recent news in regards to Days Gone 2, and unfortunately it's not very good news. As some of you might know, Days Gone was a zombie open world survival game that released back in 2019, and it got slammed by critics on launch. This was the start of its problems though, as PlayStation after some post-launch content would pull the plug on the IP. But during the COVID-19 pandemic, Days Gone saw a huge revival in plays, and in many YouTuber reviewers would start to change their minds about Days Gone, which led to many people, like me, to pick up the game and play it. And I'm gonna be honest, I think it has to be one of the best zombie survival games since The Last of Us. Not only was it challenging, but it mixed its stealth mechanics and gameplay really well. Killing the massive hordes of zombies added to the fun and to the experience of the game. Going after the massive hordes in the beginning of the game was really difficult, but by the end of the game, when you are slicing through zombies like butter, it makes you feel like a champion. Not only that, but the story is great as well. I mean, you can tell that they had franchise plans with this game, but let me talk about the spoiler-free plot briefly before we get into the news, just so new people to the franchise can get an understanding of how amazing this game is, because it really deserved a lot more recognition than when it got on launch. The game follows Deacon St. John, a motorcycle gang member, and his buddy, Will Boozer, as they navigate the dangerous zombie-infested world. The game starts off by letting your character believe that his wife Sarah is confirmed to be dead after her helicopter crashes and the Nero camp she was supposed to be staying at is overrun by freakers, but that is later discovered to not be the case. The game has you go up against zombies, which are called freakers in this game, and rippers, which are a group of cannibals. The two main settlements you can complete missions for are Hot Springs Camp, that is run by a former prison warden, Dee Dee, and Lost Lake, which is run by Chief Irons. Hot Springs doesn't really pertain much to the story as Lost Lake does because there's a background history with Chief Irons, and Deacon spends most of the game trying to get back on his good side. There's also a side plot with a Nero volunteer, O'Brien, and he will eventually help you track down Sarah towards the end of the game. Eventually it is discovered that Sarah might be at a camp that ends up where the finale of the game takes place at, and this camp is called Crater Lake, and it is run by a guy crazed on war, Colonel Matthew Garrett, and war ends up breaking out and Deacon ends up having to fight against the Crater Lake militia to stop the colonel from killing everybody on the other side of the mountains. The game ends with O'Brien contacting Deacon about the zombie experiments that the government was conducting, but it ends with a cliffhanger stating that Nero is coming and there's nothing we can do to stop them. The game just ends with Deacon finding that out, and finding out that Nero was injecting themselves with different strains of the virus to enhance the humans for the next stage of evolution. Now, this would have been really good to see that play out in a story DLC or in a sequel, but in the news that we've gotten recently, it's now official that Bend Studios does not plan on working with Sony again to make a sequel to the game. They also appear to be working on a new multiplayer live service game that will most likely be taking up the next portion of their time for the next 5 to 8 years. So I just wanted to quickly talk about what the possible sequel would have looked like. I'm just going based on the Wikipedia page right now because I couldn't find any articles. At least any that my reptile brain could understand. So I'll just be going off the Wikipedia page. Let me get into it real quick. Jason Schreider of Bloomberg News had revealed on April 9th, 2021 that Bend Studios did in fact pitch a sequel to Sony, but because of the critical reception to the original game and after the long and expensive development of the first game, Sony has seemingly rejected the pitch, and all of the talks of a sequel stopped there. David Joff had said in 2019 that the pitch for the sequel was an uphill battle, as Sony wanted to use older Bend Studio properties instead, like Syphon Filter remakes, which Bend Studios was set on expanding the universe of Days Gone, so an agreement was just impossible at that point. So unfortunately, since the release of the game, many of the developers that worked on the game have since left the studio, or have moved on to other projects, but They did give us a little bit of information as to what we could have seen, and it sounds pretty cool. Jeff Ross, the former game director, said that the game would have featured more government-based tech to avoid instant fail stealth missions. They also would have added swimming, because for some reason that wasn't in the first game. They also said that they would introduce a more lively world with like bears that rummage through trash cans. They had something like that in the first game with deer that you could hunt, and wolves too. I think wolves was another one. But the director also stated that Deacon and Sarah's relationship would be further developed with a heavy focus on narrative and exploration over whether their relationship could survive the apocalypse. So all of this would have sounded absolutely incredible if not for the news that I have today. As of June 28th, 2024, it is now official that there will not be a sequel for Days Gone 2 besides all of the leaks and news we've been getting in the last couple of years. Bend Studios themselves took to social media platforms to directly confront the rumors of Days Gone 2 being in development. Kevin McAllister, who is a community manager, put out a tweet in regards to the false hope fans have been getting fed the last couple of years. Kevin states in this tweet, "I apologize to our Days Gone community for continuously getting fed false hope and poor information by people looking for likes. It's not fair to you all. We are currently working on a new IP, and when we have actual news to share, it will come from our studio directly." So, to break this down, he's basically saying, listen guys, there's no hope for a sequel at this point. The previous developers who worked on Days Gone are gone, and we are working on a new game and will share the news of that game when we are ready. So, it confirms everything I thought logically about the sequel, but I hope for the opposite. I still have hope that we'll eventually see a sequel because nowadays it's not unlikely to see a sequel release for a game decades after its release. For example, Alan Wake 2 was considered to be a pipe dream, but because of how things worked out for Remedy, they were able to recover the license and were able to release the game just in the nick of time and almost got Game of the Year for it. So, I'll remain hopeful for a sequel, but at this point I will not keep looking for new information, as this is probably going to be the final nail in the coffin for the hopes of a Days Gone 2. I really hope that the people who are making videos on Days Gone 2 news stop feeding people false hope, because it's unproductive at this point, and it's only pissing the developers off. I understand that keeping up the interest in the game will only make it more likely that the game might be swayed into returning, but at this point it's just a dead franchise, and until we hear otherwise, that's going to be it. There's nothing new that's going to come for giving people false hope, and it's just kind of fucked up to do that and collect the views and the money for it. But that's gonna do it. I want to thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this, please watch another video, because that's how the algorithm works, and if you enjoyed this, it might recommend it to somebody else who likes this kind of content. Also, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe. I would like to make this channel a home for the everyday gamer who enjoys the franchises that I cover, and make it a haven for people who want their opinions to be heard instead of screaming into the void over at the other channels that might cover these topics. I want to thank you all again for watching, and have a good night.